Okay, so a little prefacing before I go into the topic at hand. Let's close this before I go to the topic at hand. Now, for the longest time, I've seen humanity split into two motifs. These can be called the religious and the non religious, the good, the bad, the upper and lower, depending on how you wanna look at this thing. And no matter how I looked at it, the on paper numbers of people who believed in God as the architect of everything that happens to them on paper appeared stronger than the number of people who believe that they are the architect of their own fate. And at the same time, I have noticed that the people who are the largest religious community believe in general that God will, in some form or another, influence or help you at times, but that it comes down to your choice. This has been the largest religious community that I have come across. But their view of how God is supposed to interact in their religion is not compatible with how they choose to act in their religion. I have seen lip service that you believe God as the ultimate decider of everything, yet you still cling to the belief of free will. And these are contradictory. Now, this contradiction has disabled my ability to believe I am the creator God in flesh. I have seen that belief in God is not consistent with people's appreciation for what God is supposed to be able to do, if that makes sense. This has caused me to believe that God is an external that may or may not exist, some form of starting spirit for the universe. And this has led me to New Age, where I have discovered that even if we believe all stories of God equally, and we make a structure of what these stories point to, they still point to the fact that in most people's view, God is not an external, omnipotent, omni-aware, omniscient being. It is a way of saying that they are the lonely atheist, if you will. I have used that term somewhat before. So for most people, I saw them think of God as an external that has all the power, but they have all the power in their life as an external from them, but still connected in a way. And this was wildly bothersome to me. It did not make sense. So I have thought of this divinity, and to me, what these people see as God can be more accurately ascribed to two things: death, or the opinion of the community over your individual opinion. These two concepts much more closely align with what I see them as meaning in God. And this view is not to me God. It is just one more spiritual entity. It is not God. So I have not had the resonance of my view of what God is with any religion that talks of God. So I have therefore let go of God. And now that I think about being in a waking dream, simply being in a state where you can influence your surroundings to anything, that you can change any physical condition around your surroundings, and you can input any condition into your life that you want to experience due to the nature of how the brain works. It has got me to think that to be God, death has to be another sought experience. And through that, I've understood death to be, after a fashion, dream. And being aware of in a dream that you are in a dream just makes you awake. But as long as you're not awake, being in the dream, you are controlled by society around you. Your mind is disabled, but you still are an individual. You do not remember this life because that body is disabled. So if I am to look at this surrounding environment that I'm in, I operate through wishing for something to happen and then consequently pushing upon the surroundings for it to happen, pushing or pulling, depending on what seems to be more appropriate. And this has led to a system where the connecting points to the area where I push extend, and then the area around them extends a little bit, and the area around them a tiny bit, and so on. But it creates ripples in my experience. It doesn't feel like the pushing and pulling, even though it works, is the right way to go. It feels like the ripples are from the illusion of not being God, and they are not healthy. And that the reality is that you are God. And I mean that by every example of omnipotency that you can get, but not omnisentience and not omni-experience. So you have not a complete understanding of every single particle, but you have the absolute ability to control your surroundings because you are God. And you can make your surroundings into anything you desire. I see that as God. So there is no creator spirit above me. When I disintegrate at the end of this life, I will become the creator spirit. I will set a new chain of events into motion, and then I will once again play in that chain of events. But to be God, you have to be consciously and consistently aware of that it is all just your creation. And you have the ability to do anything in it that you choose. And being alive depends on you being aware that others exist, that others can still influence you. And those two seem at conflict with one another in our monotheistic way. How can there be others when there is just one? But that is something that can be answered in emotions better than words. The reality is a form of boredom, a form of pressure at being alone is what God feels when they are without mirrors. And it feels to me like the universe is calling me to be better at polishing those mirrors, because this pulling and pushing motion does get you where you want to be. But it seems like the reality is accepting yourself as God and praying to other gods. You can pray to yourself, but accepting that you are God. And when you pray, you are saying to yourself, the environment, those that are with you, that something is amiss. And death is the experience of becoming all that there is and climbing as close to that point as you want, and then being reincarnated into the world as your preferred self for that level. So there is no need for an external creator spirit for me. I do not believe it. Such a spirit may in fact exist, but it to me is completely irrelevant. And becoming God to me means that I will be, in the words of Norse Map, being an adult like the rest of us. And that is an insanely scary step, to go from viewing the universe as a form of lucid dream where things happen fluidly and with push motions, to one where you have to consciously think of being God, consciously think of being God. Not just any personal responsibility for your own actions, which is quite common and normal, even if you don't believe you're God, but a belief in that you are responsible for everything. And that if something bothers you, changing it in the external is more difficult than changing it in the internal. So you can just do God work and get it done. This is a huge transformation, and I believe we are at some kind of point. I feel waves of cold sickness wash over me as I do this broadcast. I feel waves of sickness from too much sleep wash over me. So perhaps that explains something. So hope that answered all your questions that may arise about this topic. And I have decided to be a god, to do the things from that point of view. Actions in the physical may not change much because I am very content with where I'm at. But the universe may experience certain rapid changes. We will see. Does anybody have anything to comment on? I will wait a few moments. I'm doing this change to get closer to God because recent events have shown me that it might be smart to do. So I do not see anybody having any questions. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Thank you for watching.